Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm going to be running the highest attack Pokemon in the entire Great League that can learn the move Bug Bite, and that is Pheromosa. Pheromosa is so glassy it's not even listed on the PD Poke ranks, but with Bug Bite already doing insane damage this season, I wanted to see just how much damage could it do on Pheromosa. Now it goes without saying, do not use Pheromosa. It was a labor of love to get the few wins that I was able to get with this Pokemon. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's go Pheromosa. But we're off to a nightmare start in game number 1, leading Dusclops into Dunsparce. I save switch into Shadow Drapion, and my opponent is not going to switch out. Dunsparce does beat this entire team. You may notice I'm running a pretty interesting moveset on the Dusclops. I'm running Mono Ghost. Poltergeist is bad on Dusclops, but I really felt that this team needed some kind of a surprise factor if I was going to get any wins, and Poltergeist can potentially surprise nuke people later on. Obviously, without having Ice Punch, Dusclops now turns from a reliable Diggersby counter to something that gets completely destroyed by Diggersby, but I'm sure that won't be a problem during any of the battles. Lapras is going to be firing off the Sparkling Aria. I do want to try and exit this matchup with a little bit of energy here. I fire off the Shadow Punch. I don't want to reveal the Poltergeist just yet, but a miscount means that I'm going to be hit with a second Sparkling Aria. That's really tough because my opponent still has a Dunsparce. They farmed up quite a bit before switching, so they are one off of a Rock Slide. In the back, they have Credilli. In comes Pheromosa, and look at the Bug Bites go. Credilli getting deleted. Credilli will fire off the Rock Tomb. I absolutely have to respect it. In comes the Dunsparce. And I think Dunsparce can just get to a second Rock Slide here. I'm going to need Pheromosa to farm down. Come on, Pheromosa. Pheromosa gets the full farm down of the Dunsparce. In comes Credilli. Credilli is going to get fully farmed down as well. Pheromosa, against all odds, able to secure the Game 1 win. We move to the next match, leading Dusclops into Dedenne. Now this is a pretty negative matchup for the Dusclops, but the one thing that I have going for me here is going to be Poltergeist. Poltergeist, obviously a bit of a surprise nuke in this situation. Even out of the +1 defense Dedenne, that's still going to hit for big damage. I'm going to tank this move and aggressively switch into Shadow Drapion, but it's a simultaneous switch out, Drapion into Credilli. This could actually be a very negative thing for me if my opponent is running the team that I recently featured with Lapras in the back. Obviously, Lapras is a Psywave user, and Psywave would absolutely delete my poor Pheromosa. To be fair, Pheromosa, even neutral fast moves will destroy it. We saw how much damage even a Bullet Seed was doing last game, so this feels like a tough scenario to be in. My opponent is going to be firing off the Rock Tomb, getting the shield back. It's Lapras in the back. This is so bad. I can't get to a Poltergeist. I'm forced to settle for a Shadow Punch, and Shadow Punch is just so underwhelming in the Lapras matchup. I'm going to send in Drapion, fire off the Crunch, but I am just too low. My opponent is going to be able to farm me down before I get another move. I'm going to try and get there, but I cannot. And now, let's watch a Pheromosa absolutely disappear. Pheromosa is going to be shielding up as Lapras goes for the Sparkling Aria. They're already at another Sparkling Aria. This is a neutral Sparkling Aria, but Pheromosa is going to get one shot as it only has about 1100 stat product. We see an absolutely terrible lead, leading Dusclops into Diggersby. This matchup goes from a win to completely unplayable, but my opponent actually switches out trying to catch an Ice Punch onto Blastoise. Blastoise gets smacked with a Poltergeist, but Poltergeist is still not enough to set up a farm down, so Blastoise will still be able to land a Hydro Cannon. And now that my Mono Ghost moveset has been revealed, my opponent is going to be able to send back in the Diggersby, and Diggersby will be safe in the knowledge that I have no ability to hit it for any kind of damage. So in comes the Diggersby. Diggersby going to farm up to 100 energy and fire off the Scorching Sands. I need to save this energy and switch out because my energy is useless into the Diggersby, but I'm just so far behind with Drapion. Drapion going to commit the shield. Diggersby is going to full send the Scorching Sands. I'm firing off this Aqua Tail, but my opponent has no incentive to shield here. They can very comfortably let this go, pressure the final shield off of me, and now I'm in a scenario where Pheromosa, a Pokemon with 1100 stat product, is going to have no shields to work with in the end game. They did get the attack drop. Realistically, that's not going to have a huge impact on this game as the next Aqua Tail was not KOing anyway, but my goodness, things are looking so dire. Aqua Tail is going to pick up the KO in the back. Oh, I thought that was going to be a Samurott, but it's not. It's Shadow Duat. Dewott is going to go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail absolutely nukes Pheromosa. And now, I think I've just lost this game. Shadow Punch is going to be shielded. I need to be able to get to a Poltergeist, as a Shadow Punch will not be enough to knock out. So, I bait, I'm able to get the shield, but I can't get to the Poltergeist. I'm forced to settle for the Shadow Punch. This just will not do enough damage, and I think Dewott will be able to take this win. And Dewott leaves with the move loaded. I'm not quite sure of Dewott's moveset here. It turns out it's an Aqua Tail that I barely survive. If that was a Samurott, I would have lost for sure. But luckily, they were running the middle stage evolution instead. We move to the next match, and we're staring down another normal type. Oh my goodness, this Mono Ghost Dusclops not paying off much whatsoever. In comes the Drapion into the Diggersby. Thankfully, the Diggersby threw instantly onto the Dusclops, so I'm able to save that energy, and since it's the Shadow Diggersby, they take a lot more damage. They CMP tied with a Fire Punch, so they just want some chip damage, and now I see why. Because they wanted to put me in a range where they could knock out with a Parabolic Charge from Dedenne. Aqua Tail is going to land onto Dedenne. Dedenne is going to overfarm, playing to the CMP tie. Nice overfarm there by my opponent, and Dedenne will be able to pick up the KO. In comes Dusclops. Dusclops will be firing off the Shadow Punch. Their +1 Shadow Punch is not going to be enough to knock out here, so they are able to hang on and make one final move. But realistically, I just need to hope that they bring in a third that does not have a resistance to Ghost, but they have Galarian Moltres in the back. Look at the Bug Bites, though. Bug Bites adding up so much onto the Moltres. These resistant Sucker Punches are keeping pace, though. Moltres farms up, and they're at the back-to-back flies. I just missed the farm down, and that's actually going to cost me this game. In comes the Diggersby. Diggersby's going to farm down, and I just don't have the damage here to KO the Diggersby. Shadow Punch is going to be shielded. They throw on alignment, knowing that the moment they get the shield, they win the game because they have a move banked on the Moltres. Here, just to show them that I did have Poltergeist and I don't have Ice Punch, I'm going to be firing off this Poltergeist. Poltergeist does pick up the KO. In comes the Moltres. And man, I think that I do really need Ice Punch here, unfortunately, as the Poltergeist is really backfiring. But this is a matchup where Poltergeist may actually put in a little bit of work as we lead into Typhlosion. Typhlosion can always tank a Shadow Punch, so they have pretty high incentive to let this go. But I don't have Shadow Punch. I have Poltergeist, and down goes Typhlosion. Out comes a Mudsdale. What is this Pokemon doing here? Mudsdale now going to be hit with a Shadow Punch. The opponent, after seeing the damage from the Poltergeist, will put up a shield. Now, Mudsdale, I can't honestly remember what charge moves it learns. They go for a Heavy Slam. It doesn't KO. Oh my goodness. Non-stab Heavy Slam is so bad. Almost as bad as Shadow Punch from Dusclops. Shadow Punch lands. In comes Pheromosa. Pheromosa is going to get the full Bug Bite farm down. And in the back is Credilli. But this is an Acid Credilli, and that means that they will actually farm me down here. Lunge is going to reduce the acid damage. The Bug Bites are shredding my opponent. And now I get to send in the Shadow Drapion, and I believe I can actually go for a 2-shield flex here because due to that lunge debuff, I will be able to hang on and survive 2 Rock Tombs. So that's what I'm going to go for, the incredibly rare Pheromosa 2-shield flex. We move to the next match, Dusclops staring down another fire type, this time the Shadow Kanto Ninetales. Ninetales is going to farm up here. They do not have enough for an overheat, so I can successfully let the first one go through. And again, Poltergeist has been a liability in a lot of games, so in games where it's neutral, I'm just going to be full sending. Poltergeist lands, and down goes the Ninetales. Out comes Celio. Celio obviously did get an update this season as well with its new move of Surf. So Celio going to get smacked with a Crunch. Crunch does not get the debuff since it is a lower chance, and I should be able to survive a Surf here. Surf will do a sizable amount of damage, so Drapion is down very low, but I make the Crunch and I win Charge Attack priority. That is a really nice CMP tie to win. Down goes the Celio in the back. Oh, they're running some spice. They're running the Psycho Cut Fly Galarian Articuno. But Galarian Articuno is now going to get fully bug bitten down by Pheromosa. So Pheromosa having quite a bit of fun here as it's going to have to double shield because they do have the back-to-back flies. But Pheromosa is going to get that full farm down here. Although Pheromosa, I've never seen Psycho Cuts look that deadly as we take the win, but not by much. Jellicent into Galarian Moltres, a terrible lead. I save switch into Credilli, and as you can see, I did end up trying 2 different teams, so this is team number 2. A very similar setup to what I was using with the Shadow Camerupt. And what I very quickly learned is that Shadow Camerupt a lot better of a Pokemon than Pheromosa. Here my opponent is going to go for a Rock Tomb catch onto their Diggersby. Now this team is so much better into Diggersby, and that's part of why I ended up running this team, because man, the last team, Diggersby was just an absolute nightmare to deal with. I was not really able to gain any ground. I'm just going to stay in here with the Credilli, get the Bullet Seed damage, force them to throw energy because they're never going to be able to quick attack down. And then I can potentially go for an incredibly aggressive Hex down with the Jellicent. Jellicent going to get hit with the Scorching Sands. Opponent going to pivot out into a Shadow Jumpluff. And that is not what I was hoping to see in the back with a Bug Bite Pheromosa as my final Pokemon. Shadow Ball is going to land. Jumpluff doesn't really have a reason to bait, but I can survive Acrobatics here. Acrobatics lands, big damage, there's a switch into Pheromosa, and these Fairy Winds are deleting Pheromosa. I'm going to shield once and fully Bug Bite down, so I will exit with quite a lot of energy, but I've already lost half my health on this Pheromosa. Pheromosa now going to be in a really difficult spot here as in comes Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres going to be met with a lunge. This will do big damage, but the important thing is I just need to reduce the Sucker Punch damage. These Sucker Punches are doing so much to Pheromosa. Pheromosa desperately shielding up here. I need to try and make it to a lunge. Opponent switches into the Diggersby. They snipe down with the quick attacks. My Hex down, which is my only chance, is unsuccessful. And unfortunately, we will lose a close game here as Fire Punch will be enough to KO Jellicent. We move to the next match, picking up a bit of an uncomfortable lead here. Jellicent into Toxtricity. Toxtricity, obviously Acid going to be resisted, but Toxtricity can launch deadly Wild Charges that will pressure an early shield. So they are going to go for the Wild Charge. I overfarm, predicting a catch, and there is the catch attempt onto a Shadow Samurott. So they're running a line that is very, very glassy so far. Avoiding that catch is really, really big for me because now I'm able to use this energy in a very efficient manner to pressure shields off of my opponent. So I throw one more Hex, full send in the Shadow Ball once again. Shadow Samurott, only so many shields to hide behind. The Shadow Ball lands and I'm able to get the farm down. So I do exit with energy on the Jellicent, still have yet to reveal my backline. In comes Galarian Moltres. I'm going to fire off the Surf to basically put it in Rock Tomb range for the Credilli, and then I can look to pivot out. Even if my opponent does end up switching out here, that's very okay by me. They throw the Fly right away, so that way they don't have to worry about me throwing the Rock Tomb on alignment, and now they bring back in Toxtricity. But Toxtricity is really down on energy here. They're going to end up shielding up the Rock Tomb, and a Power-Up Punch, non-stab, at -1 isn't going to do much to the Credilli. I'm worried about getting farmed down by Acid, so I will just throw the Rock Tomb instantly. Rock Tomb into Toxtricity will pick up the KO. And now in comes Pheromosa. Pheromosa going for the full Bug Bite down. I can't quite get there. I will be forced to burn the final shield as they go for the Fly. But the Bug Bite KOs, and we take the win. Picking up a nice lead in the next match. Jellicent into Golisopod. The safe switch into Shadow Drapion. And this version of the team, I just have nothing for Drapion. I guess my Drapion answer is Pheromosa, but Pheromosa is very, very glassy, so I don't think that's a consistent answer. I'm going to fire off the Surf, send in Pheromosa, look for a Bug Bite farm down, and they make it to a Crunch. Crunch is resistant, so I am going to let this through. And it one-shots! Oh my goodness, I know Pheromosa is glassy. But it getting one shot there is just ridiculous. Oh my goodness. And now without switch advantage, with the Jellicent already low, there's probably just not going to be a way that I can win this game. Pheromosa, why are you so frail? I know I set out with the goal to find the highest attack stat Bug Bite user, but that absolutely comes with consequences that we are seeing here. And my opponent realistically can always just wait for me to be in the middle of a Bullet Seed, so I'm never going to be able to catch a move. So I throw one, I switch into the Jellicent. In the back is Belly Bolt. Man, had I kept alignment, Credilli could have done very nicely, but I think the biggest problem for me was that I just didn't have a Drapion answer with this version of the team, and now I'm going to get punished for that, as Belly Bolt can fire off a Zap Cannon, KO Credilli, and I will lose that game. Hopping into the final match, Jellicent into Shadow Nidoqueen. Opponent is going to save switch into a regular Samurott, and Jellicent is a really nice core breaker. And that's really what I relied on to get wins with Pheromosa, is if the other two Pokemon were able to, in some way, really core break opponents, then Pheromosa might be able to clean up in the end game. Because my goodness, Pheromosa by itself was not doing a whole lot of work. because it's just so frail. Even in endgames against the Galarian Moltres, for example, where Sucker Punch is resisted, the Sucker Punch is still just absolutely shredded me. I know I do have very weird stats on this Pheromosa just because I did end up trading it. It got to a good combat power, but obviously I would prefer to have more HP on it. Here, I'm pretty close to a move on Jellicent, so I switch out into Credilli, and I'm more than happy to absorb a Shadow Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to land. My opponent does not go for a catch, and I get to fire off the Grass Knot. Grass Knot will land, picking up the KO. Back in comes Shadow Nidoqueen. I'm going to make it to the Rock Tomb. They're farming up, throwing on Charge Attack priority. Genuinely, I don't know if I live a Poison Fang here, so I will end up committing the shield, just because I want to apply a permanent debuff to this Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to end up calling the Rock Tomb, but from here, I can probably just Bug Bite down with the Pheromosa because they're already debuffed and they've already lost a lot of health. So it's time. In comes Pheromosa. Pheromosa going to go for the full Bug Bite down. Opponent just stops tapping because they know the game is over. Normally, when I feature a Mon, I'm usually able to get a pretty solid win rate with it, but my goodness, trying to get wins with a Pokemon as glassy as Pheromosa, it took so many games, because the moment the core pairing with Pheromosa was in any kind of a tough alignment, Pheromosa was needed to sweep, and we saw even in endgames where on paper you felt like maybe there was a chance, like into the Galarian Moltres Diggersby team, it just gets absolutely deleted by any kind of fast move pressure. But the few wins that I got were absolutely glorious, and I was very happy to be able to secure those wins. But man, Pheromosa, it would definitely prefer to see a 35 energy move, but even a 35 energy move is not going to save it from its fate of just being an 1100 stat product Pokemon. Its attack stat is ridiculous. We kind of got to see the power of the possible today with just how much damage can Bug Bite do with 180 attack Pokemon, which, by the way, if you thought Morpeko won a lot of CMBs, that's around 140. We're talking 180 for Pheromosa, so a genuinely absurd attack stat. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.